your host of any innovative Black stations connecting the dots, and we have a legend here today. He's written a book that everybody is gonna pick up, I'm sure, after you hear this. It's called Trabulations, the Hood Bible, and it's written by Travis Williams. And this is a story that I think now, it's always been the way that people should hear this story. But you know, recently we've heard a lot about the ancestors, right? But we can't skip over to the ancestors without respecting our elders. So always get with somebody wise, or read a book like this, or talk to somebody that's walked the journey that everybody has made to be so glamorous. So welcome. Thank you for coming to the show to share your story.
Yeah, thank you.
So introduce yourself and tell everybody why you are who you are and why you wrote this book.
My name is Travis Williams. I wrote this book in concerning the hoods because the values was lost in the hood. There's a lot of values was lost, so I sat down while I was doing my 30 years in prison, and I decided to reach back for the hood because I know it was a lot of things that was missing. And I felt that, if I channel myself with some positive energy to give back to the hoods, I did that.
So you're a legend from Miami, from the legendary Miami Boys.
Yes.
And anybody could look up the story and see the good side of everything that was going on. And so what time frame would you, take us back? When this all got started, what would you say the time frame was? What year was it?
It was in 1988. I was just coming out of the state prison, and I tried to relocate myself, to dodge a lot of my history that I had in Miami. But the name never died out. Although the location was separate, the name followed me up the road. So when I came up the road, I was trying to, lay low and, stay out the way of the limelight, but my name was bigger than I thought it was, and it followed me up here. And
so what did you get into? How did you get into it?
I tried to knit away from my family. I had been out in the streets before I went to the state, and I had a lot of kids. So I didn't want my kids to travel that same road that I was traveling. So I tried to knit. I came up here to get me a little money and knit away from my family, that they don't have to be in the line like I was. So that's what that was.
So this book, if you start reading it, I've read a lot of the reviews, and they say that you're not going to be able to put it down. You're going to go from story to story to story, and it's just going to keep you reading. One of the parts that I read that spoke to me, and I was like, yes. It says, we find our true destiny by acknowledging unfruitful mental spaces that have been wrestled with and defeated to make this movement possible. So tell everybody why you went to prison.
I went to prison on conspiracy charges.
Because I don't think anybody, obviously you're highly respected. You should see he came with there's so many people here to help promote this. This is like a movement, y'all. So you got to read about this story. But tell everybody what the Miami Boys were notorious for.
They were notorious for bringing drugs in different cities. And, Miami was really flooded with a lot of drugs during that time. So, it wasn't no strong avenue to get rid of the drugs. Everybody had drugs on every corner. So we moved towards more up north, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, different places like that, to distribute the drugs. In the meantime that we was doing that, our names, by us coming in another city, we was known as the Miami Boys, and that's the title. That title just stuck with us.
So I always try to bring people back and give them a perspective, because I know that millennials, you don't know, you hear stories, you see the glamorous part of the drug game. And Miami, of course, because it's a port city, it's a glamorous city, and that's where all the money was coming from. A lot of the times, that's the plug, what y'all call it now, right? That would be the plug for the South as far as what the drug game was. So how much money was y'all talking about, bringing in at that time?
See, during that time, when I first came here, I started out, and the first spot I came to, we pulled like $70,000 a day. it kind of shocked me. I mean, my first night coming in, and I said, man, that's 70,000. I was kind of spooked because I know how the feds play. You know, I seen marked money and stuff like that, so I closed the spot down and drove by the town to secure the money. But as time went on, we started getting different locations that doing 120, 113,000, $98,000 a day, you know, things like that nature. So there was a lot of money circulating, you know. During the course of the day, you might make $200,000-$300,000.
Wow. So
Yeah.
behind all that money, it's like a mini corporation. Everybody has their position to play.
Yeah.
So was it hard to, I mean, this is really like, you guys were the first entrepreneurs in the hood, right? And that's another reason why so many people looked up to that lifestyle, is because everybody kind of played a position.
Yeah, the hustles was different. In different states, there was different types of hustles. See, in Miami, we had a 24-hour shift. So I brought that to the table here in Atlanta. We brought the 24-hour shift around that, you know, that generated more money. Here, you know, dudes are hustling. They do a few little hours, and they'll quit. You know, they run to the shake club or whatever, you know, and enjoy themselves. But, you know, I was trying to reach a goal, you know. I seen the money circulating, and I wanted to grab as much as I can during that time and try to do something with it, you know, do something productive with it, you know, open up me some businesses and stuff like that to that nature.
So did you see, and I always wonder this, like, did you see any longevity in it? Like, when you first got into it, how long did you think that the money was going to last?
I mean, at the beginning, right, I mean, I took it for play, you know. I seen a lot of money, you know. I was a kid, and I came in at 17 years old, so, and I moved fast. You know, I came from a background of some old parents. You know, they had me at an old age. They taught me how to save my money and invest it. So I saved my money, and at the age of 19, I had my own business, you know. So, but as time came along, and things started progressing, the money started coming in fast, and you started getting faster cars, all sorts of women. And you know, you start wearing the jewelry. You know, you start, you know, going outside of what you went into it for, and that's what happened in that little nature there.
So, when you started in the game, did you already have children?
Yeah, I had two. I had two children.
So you provided them with a lifestyle that probably the other parents weren't, right? The ones that just have regular jobs.
Yes. You know, I had a thing with my kids, right? My oldest kids before I come down to Miami, I always had a thing. I said, I'm gonna make sure I bring some money down there to, you know, to give my kids. I give my older kids $1,000, and I get the youngest ones $500. So I did that every time. I did that twice a week. I made trips down there twice a week. So every time I come down there, I make sure I give my oldest three $1,000. One of my sons told me a couple of weeks ago he got in trouble that the teacher had found the money in his book bag, and he had a few $1,000s in it, and they were trying to figure out where he got that money from. But you know, I always did that. You know, that was my thing. You know, I love my kids. You know, I'm the baby of my family, and I never had younger brothers, so I looked at them as my youngest brothers.
So in the book, you also described coming up, and you mentioned that you had older parents, and they worked.
And they worked hard.
But you said that, you know, you saw them work for 30 years, and you didn't want to be that guy. You didn't want to have a job for 30 years and just like have a middle class lifestyle. You didn't see the value in that. What do you think about that now? Have your perspective about that changed?
I always think outside the box. And, you know, I want more for myself, and I want to leave a legacy for my family, you know, and my kids, you know. I don't want to leave, you know, I seen my mom and dad work for 30 years. Only thing they had was a car and a house paid for. And I seen, by me being the youngest, I said I had to do more. You know, I had a basketball career, and I was in college, and I said to myself, I mean, I would go 4 years of college, I might not make it to the pros. I mean, I had the skills to go to the pros, but I mean, my grades wasn't up to par. So I had to choose a junior college. And the junior college wasn't even to the level of the high school. You know, you got all the activities, the cheerleaders hollering, the crowd hollering. But in the junior college, you ain't had but a certain amount of people in the stand. So it kind of threw me for a loop. I wasn't used to just it seemed like practice, and it seemed like I wasn't going nowhere. So I scouted the fence and went towards the streets, to try to make things, change.
So I remember in the 80s, this was like another economy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the drug game it's real different than it is now because of the laws. But did you feel a difference when the laws started changing?
I seen the drug change before I seen it.
In what way?
It went from coke to crack.
Yeah. So you were in the game before crack.
Yeah.
So you saw how crack changed everything.
Yeah, I seen how. Yeah.
So see, that's the group of people that I need people. That's why I need people to read this book. That's the group of people that we need to find out from the real story because crack changed everything about the black community. So tell us more about that time frame.
I see. Before I went into state prison, we were selling coke, but when I got out, they were selling crack, and everybody was telling me, "Hey man, you're not gonna make no money. You're gonna sit on one key for 2 months. We were gonna serve 30, 40 keys, crack before you sold one." So I was, man, I don't know nothing about too much about no crack, but this is where the money at, and I got involved with that, and things just went to an whole nother level, Things
was the money the same, or was it?
No.
Was it more work involved? What was the difference?
As time went along, a lot of work was involved because we were selling over maybe 50 keys in 2 or 3 days.
Wow. So you needed more people.
Yeah, but what was the problem with me? I had a stigma on me that I was a robber, that I never was, So a lot of people didn't want to deal with me because they thought that I was just getting out of prison, and I came up with this. Somebody was fronting me money to rob, but that wasn't the case. I don't hustle other men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not my thing. I respect myself more that I got to go and watch another man. He in the same trenches that I'm in. He trying to come up. So I ain't gonna sit there and watch him build his empire and then try to take.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think I got enough skills to maintain my own thing, my own operation. So that wasn't the case with me. But that stigmatization was on me, so a lot of people did not want to deal with me.
So crack was like an epidemic. I mean, it was like it caught on all over the country. It was a big thing, and so the laws started changing, and people started getting more time.
Yeah.
And they started building more prisons. Like, okay, this is what y'all want to do, then we know this is what's going to happen. So what came down to you being sentenced to 30 years? Like, what does that even feel like for somebody to look at you and tell you that?
At the beginning, when you get so caught up in the streets and doing your thing inside the streets, you don't be focusing on the laws and the thing until it hit you, until it reach you. And then when you set before that atmosphere, then you say to yourself, man, what they talking about? Conspiracy? They ain't caught me with no drugs. They ain't caught me with no money. They ain't caught me no wiretap. They ain't caught me no fingerprints, no nothing, no gun. How can they charge you with something like that?
Right.
And then when you go call and try to tell your boys and say, man, they got me up under some stuff that
you didn't even realize they could do.
Yeah. I mean, they ain't got me with nothing. I mean, they got you portrayed all over the media like you this image, but they don't got no facts to nothing that they saying.
So with you guys, another thing that I want people to understand as younger is the media only had one voice back then. It was the news, or whatever they said was what was going on. We saw that a lot. If you ever watched the movie about the Central Park Five, how the media and his perspective of everything that was going on kind of like shaped everything. And the jurors, all the people that's reading this, eventually one of those people are going to be picked for the jury. So people were just starting to recognize the power of the media. So some of the stuff that you read about yourself, you was just like,
no. I came up in the era where, back in the days when guys had a whole bunch of robbery charges, right? They try to sum up all the robberies. When they catch one guy that's robbed, they just they'll cast all them robberies on that person and try to let him, beat them cases, And I fell up under the same situation, and I was picked up, and they cast a whole bunch of murders on me. That they established me in this town here as one of the worst drug dealers ever.
What state was this in?
This was in Georgia, right here in Atlanta. They say I was one of the worstest drug dealers ever they encountered, but they had even said that I was a serial killer.
What?
So, but it caught me off guard. But I understand the media. I know how they play, and they trying to sell. I mean, I know how the media plays. So
you were charged with conspiracy. So you have co-defendants, right?
Yeah, a lot of co-defendants, guys.
So you were a part of an operation that they took down. Is that what they call it?
Yeah. But they round up a whole bunch of guys that you familiar with and case guys up that really wasn't dealing with you. They case guys up and try to pressure them to talk. They talk because they know they ain't familiar with your situation. But I take my hat off to a lot of the guys that stood firm and held their grounds. And regardless of the circumstances that they wasn't, even though they wasn't involved with it, they still, they maintain, And I give a lot of ups and respect to that, because a lot of dudes would never took that position. They would have said, "Man, I ain't got nothing to do with that," and they would have folded on me. But like I say, a lot of people fold. I had a little saying. A person told me, say, "Man, why you ain't got no dog? Why you ain't got no dog in your backyard?" I said, "Man, my dogs cross me. You know what I'm saying? I deal with cats now. The cat's gonna get rid of the rats. So you ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? He gonna get rid of the rats. He might be silent. A dog make a lot of noise in the house. The cat silent. He gonna watch the window and let you know somebody out there. So the dog gonna continue to bark, and they gonna say, "Hey, man, there's a dog in the house." But that cat, he gonna be quiet and he gonna stare wherever he heard that noise at. And he's a silent killer. They say he suck the breath out you. If you know what I'm saying?
What?
So you can't underestimate the cat. So that's my.
See, that's what I'm talking about. When you talk to a wise person, an older person, this is the kind of things that they have you thinking about. So you always should take time and get with somebody. I wanted to read this because this is how bad crack was, and this is how bad the coke and everything in the 80s and in the early 90s. In 2010, Obama tried to fix that because he saw that some of the laws that they were passing were strictly laws dealing with crack. Mm-hmm. So you noticed in the system, your charge that you had for dealing coke and the charge that you got for dealing crack, you would get two different things. So the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010 was an act of Congress that was signed into federal law by Barack Obama on August 3rd, 2010, that reduces the disparity between the amount of crack cocaine and powder cocaine needed to trigger certain federal criminal penalties from a 100-to-1 weight ratio, an 18-to-1 rate ratio, and eliminated the 5-year mandatory minimum sentencing for simple possession of crack cocaine, among other provisions. Similar bills were introduced in several U.S. Congresses before it passed in 2010. So they didn't pass it. It took until the 2000s before they changed it. The Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986 implemented the initial disparity. That's where this all started from, reflecting Congress's view that crack cocaine was more dangerous and harmful drug than powder cocaine. In the decades since, extensive research by the United States Sentencing Commission and other experts suggested that the state sentencing, the differences between the effects of the two drugs are exaggerated, and the sentencing disparity is unwarranted. So what ended up happening is, because crack became mainly a black thing, the court decided that, hey, we could get more time out of people for selling crack than we do for people selling coke, because it seemed like more, and you could probably say yes or no to this, it was like crack was more of, in the black neighborhoods, coke was probably, more from the older people that didn't switch to drugs or whatever when crack became popular.
I got a different view on this that topic. You know, they came to Maxine Water back in the early 90s with the same ratio, 18-1. You know, the Democrats, you know, they put the drug, the prison, they built more prisons. They changed the laws to affect the black community. And they got a system going, right? A 25 to 30 year system. After every 25 to 30 years, they implement a law to allow whatever they put forward to trap the people, they free them. See, I watched in the 30 years, I watched the Cubans come in. They did 25 to 30 years. Then they brought the gun laws in, that the people that did 25 to 30 years. Then they brought the drug guys in, and we did our 20 to 30 years, and the laws changed, and they released us. Now they're attacking the gangs right now. See, these same young youth that's out there right now, they gonna. That's why it's a lot of promotion of this gang activity. So now these same dudes that's coming in prison, 20 and 25 years old, when you see them again, they'll be my age.
Right.
They'll be in their 50s or 60s, cause they implementing laws. They entrap them, not just out on the streets, even inside the prisons.
So, when you say that they promote certain things every so often, how do they promote it? How do you see that these influences are coming down on these guys to like fall for it? Because we didn't know necessarily in the 80s that the government, they ended up researching and finding out was responsible for bringing these drugs onto the street and making them so easily accessible to these kids that got caught up and got these long sentences. So what do you see now as them promoting the guns and the stuff that's going to make them get 25 potentially years in jail?
Yeah, see, it's a lot of things is built up on a culture.
Yes.
It's built up on a culture, and this the culture that's we living in right now. The guns, the violence, and they set this atmosphere out there for our youth to gravitate towards it, just to entrap them. It's a spider web effect. You know what I'm saying? It attract the youth, and like I said, I mean, it even entrapped me. I mean, I was blind to it until I got trapped inside the midst of it. Once I got trapped inside the midst of it, then by me trying to explain to somebody else, they couldn't grasp it. They sit back and say, man, this dude he in there tripping. Man, he tripping. He ain't. But that's why it took me. I sat down and I said, maybe I can build a platform through a book and write this book and then introduce this book to the public and introduce to the hoods that, this thing is real,
So another part of the book I've read, it says, we enter federal prison as healthy as bulls, but strangely, after 5 to 10 years of actual servitude, we begin to experience unexpected health problems, high blood pressure, different types of cancer, HIV, diabetes, kidney disease. Strangely seems to infect us. So, now we're seeing that because we're in a pandemic right now, the prisons are being heavily affected by COVID. So you actually saw, did your health get affected besides your mental, of course? You would describe it as being like in hell, but...
The commissary promote diabetes.
So the commissary, for people that don't know,
high blood pressure.
That's where you get the food that you...
Yeah.
That you get the extra food, because they provide you with your 3 meals.
Yeah, it provides you 3 meals a day.
But you can get extra when your little commissary is your little bank account.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, all they give you is stuff that give you high blood pressure, diabetes. And they take blood from you so much, right? They study your blood. And
Wow.
Look at the pandemic right now. Everybody that they say it affect, they got high blood pressure, diabetes. Just look.
The pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
Obesity.
And, okay, but they give you these same things to create that inside you. They give you the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the different things, cholesterol, high cholesterol, And they study your blood. Once they study your blood, they figure out how to break down your immune system. So all this.
So people that think, and this is another thing I tell people, the prison system is designed, really, they want more and more people in there because the 13th Amendment freed us from slavery unless you are imprisoned. Mm-hmm. So they still have slavery in this country. It's not legal. You're not out here doing what our ancestors did. But they find a way to push you in a situation where it's like a puzzle, right? Or it's like a maze. You make the wrong turn in your life and you're going to be...
You're going to prison.
So what was it like, say, like the first 5... So first, take us to the day you got sentenced. I just need to know, how does that feel when somebody tells you what your sentence is? 30 years.
They did it a different way. They said you got 300. They say you got 360 months. They ain't tell you 30 years. They say you got 360 months. So my family say, "Oh, you okay? They ain't give you nothing but some months." So I waited till I got back to the unit and where I can use the phone. I said, I'm messed up. They said, "No, you'll be home soon." I say, 60 months is 5 years. I say, another 60 months, that's 10. I say, another 60 months, that's 15 years. I still got 180 some months left. They say, "Oh man, you in trouble." I say, "You just realized that?" I say, "Man, I'm messed up."
So it's depression. How long does that last?
Excuse me?
Depression, how long? Like, it's...
My mom always taught me, she said, if you make your bed hard, sleep in it. She warned me of these days, so I had put myself in a predicament, right? So I get, like I say, I'm like a chameleon. I got to try to fight hard to get myself back to my freedom and to my family. But I know I was in a situation now I got to deal with and, try to make the best out of it until I get my liberation again.
Did you try, I'm not going to ask too many questions because y'all got to read the book, but did you, were you already thinking about what life was going to be like? Were you already planning, visualizing, thinking about writing a book, imagining what your life was going to be like?
Yeah, I started planning. I said, I got to do something, to generate some type of, interest to the people that I can give them and say, okay, this is my experience. So I built that platform, and I study other things too, but it's coming soon. I ain't gonna just put it out there.
Right. Well, we're gonna keep up with you and make sure everybody gets their social media and stuff and follow this movement. With you, what do you think it was worth it? Like, was the work you put in and the money you made in that lifestyle worth it as this 50-year-old man that sits here before us? Was it worth it?
I think the experience is worth it.
Cause you learn, like I said, it's like you running a business.
I'm still here, and even though I was counted out by many, I'm still here. I don't point the fingers at the wrongs. I just try to correct the rights by moving forward. I ain't got time to sit back and say, well, okay, well, he did this, he did that, he did that. But, like I said, this is a proud moment, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm moving forward.
Right.
I don't like the treadmill effect, you know what I'm saying? I don't like the walking place. You know what I'm saying? I like to see some movement. I want to pass buildings and people and different cars. I want to see the movement, So, like you said, this is a movement. So I want to see the movement, I want to see things go forward, I ain't got, I can't count your money or the next person's money and say what you got is yours, and I tip my hat to with your accomplishments, and I hope somebody see my vibe that I'm trying to continue to move forward and do things that's right, regardless of all the things you might hear outside. Look at the individual yourself. Study the person yourself. Don't just sit back and take things what you hear other people say about somebody and then just run with it. Evaluate the person yourself and see what see out that person.
So you in there, it's 30 years. You come home. What is the thing that is so different? What was the first thing that caught you that's different about the world?
Technology.
Yes, it went fast. It didn't take long.
Mm-hmm.
Technology. It's like one day you had did they have those big old cell phones when you went?
They had the flip phones when I came out, when I left.
They had flip
the big
phones?
ones.
The big one, right?
Yeah, they had the big one.
Did you have that?
Yeah, they had no, I had a little, like a little walkie-talkie.
So now you have a smartphone. He don't know how to work it, y'all. Tell the truth, because you know sometimes we need to help with these phones.
I just want to give him his flowers while you're here, man. Salute you, man. I'm glad I finally got to meet you in person.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? You paved the way for young kings like me.
Yes, sir.
I'm from Liberty City, Scott Projects.
Yes, sir.
So I was over there with the Lynch Mob and all them boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Bug and all them. I stayed right behind Bug. So
Okay.
I seen a lot as a child, and I heard about y'all boys growing up. I met y'all in some type of way through my family as a child, but y'all paved the way. Y'all the reason why I'm the way I am now. Feel me? But I just wanted to know out of.
I want to say something for the record before.
Out of the,
Yeah, go ahead.
Out of the crew you was with, I read that it was called the Untouchables.
No, the Untouchables came from down south.
Okay,
That's a whole nother crew.
Okay. Well, out of your crew, who stayed solid? You ain't got to name no names, but you can say, was it any people that stayed solid? Because we in the era now with Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yeah, I wanted to. Yeah,
he's the king rap.
Yeah.
He's paving the way for these new generation of people or whatever like that.
That's what they right now. We in the era of weak.
Yeah.
And that's what they respect now. A good man can come out right now and they'll sit back and make all the excuses not to deal with that person. But the ones that folded and did the impossible, everybody hugging them and embracing them and throwing parties for them. I mean, like I say, we in the era of the week. The week own all the clubs, the rim shops, they own everything. Everybody embrace that, you know. As long as you can come back out flexing, that's what they respect. They don't respect no man. They think you crazy when you sit there and don't tell them your best man. They think you crazy. They don't respect that, man. You finna sit down there. I put my life on the line. I was facing the death penalty. That's the ultimate test. I was the first death row inmate in Georgia. Only thing they said to me when I was facing the death penalty, they say, "You want to hear? I got good news and bad news for you." I say, "Well, give me the bad news." I said, "The bad news is you facing the death penalty, and they gonna proceed with it." They said, "The good news is they just indicted somebody else for the death penalty. You'll have somebody to talk to down the hall." I said, "That's good news."
Wow.
But I want to touch on when we was talking about that blood, right? Don't you think it's ironic that our women having breast cancer and all our men's having prostate problems? See, they studying the blood to knock you down, we all know some of us might have been breastfed, but if you take our women's breasts, then they want you on that chemical milk that they're screwing our kids. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of people lean towards that because they got a lot of duties to fulfill for the family. You know, they working hard and different things, and they ain't got time to breastfeed. And that's why we got to be mindful and put ourselves in positions to when that time comes for your wife, you got to have her in a position where she can fall back.
Okay.
And you take the wheel.
Okay.
You see, you take the wheel. Mm-hmm. That's your responsibility. You take the wheel where she can upbreed a productive child, not a chemical child that they put out the chemicals in certain milks that you got to feed your kids. You know, and that's one of my biggest issues. You know, I mean, I'm doing this interview because I'm for my people. You know, I'm for the people. I'm for what's right. I'm for what's right, you know, and you can't, money ain't gonna never deteriorate that. I'm gonna die with keeping it solid, you know, keeping it straightforward, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of how somebody feel about me, about somebody done told them about me, Man, I care less about that, man. I've been there and done that. And I live some of the best times, Ain't gonna continue to live, you know what I'm saying? So
How do you think the game has changed from then till now?
I mean, just like the brother just said, the game has been destroyed, I mean, you talking about guys can just publicly come out and say, hey, man, look, man, the hell with it. I told on such and such and such and such, But I was facing the death penalty for my friends. I called home and told my parents I'm not going to disgrace their name. These are the people I grew up with and ate at the table with, and, how can I look at their family face? A lot of people wait till the time come and say, oh, what about my kids? Okay, what about my kids? You want to put me in prison and talking about, oh, I got to see my kids. Well, what about my kids? I got kids right now that I wasn't even familiar with because of this situation, Their moms was just, their mom was pregnant during the time I went in, and I never got a chance because they maneuvering me all over the system because of the reputation that they betrayed me as. I'm in Colorado, I'm in...
Because the federal prisons,
you everywhere.
From state
California,
to state,
you everywhere.
So have you built back relationships with those kids?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, I reached out, I reached out to my kids, and right now we going through a building process, I don't love, I got a lot of different children moms, and I try to give balance to all the kids, I don't love one more than the other, I love all my kids the same, I see a lot of, I go towards, it's a lot of, I don't go to the favoritism, but I got my favorite ones that I
really?
see that,
Okay.
they motivate me to keep a smile. That's like I got my twin over there. They got my twin over there.
That's your son?
Yeah, that's my twin, So, he motivates me every time I see him, he remind me of young days when I had a black beard,
Oh, wow.
I got a question for you, because you mentioned a couple times that you was on death row, one of the first ones on death row.
Yeah, I was facing the death penalty.
When you was facing the death penalty, how did you overcome that, and how long have you been out?
How long I've been out?
Yeah.
I've been out about 5 months right now. They had me in solitary confinement for many years inside the prisons, because I was one of the first ones facing a federal death sentence. I might have spent 3 or 4 years inside confinement, coming straight out the gate of the streets. You come from balling and enjoying yourself straight to confinement. And while in confinement, everybody that tried to visit me, they was harassing them and trying to deteriorate them to try to break me down. If you come visit him, we're gonna indict you. We're gonna do this and that. So it kind of made a lot of people back away from me. When I used to make phone calls, oh, I can't talk to you. Oh, these people around here harassing me. And at one point I ain't talked to people for like 2 years.
Nobody?
No communication. And I kind of I say to myself, I got to just, suck it up, And everything started reflecting back on what my mom told me. Hey, you make your bed hard, sleep in it. Some of these guys that I told you about, you didn't want to listen. You took them to heart. Oh, these are my best friends. Woo, woo, woo. But I seen some of them same guys, turn their back on me, I met a few good men down the line as in my journey that, they stood fast, Like I say, I tip my hat to them, They stood fast, more firmer than the guys that I grew up with, But, it's a lesson learned.
Do you think that now you'll, go to talk to people, therapy or something?
I wouldn't say it in that nature, but if a person needs, some type of guidance, I'm always here. I'm a shoulder to lean on. Like I said in that book, I'm a 360 dude. I ain't 100. So that's what we've been getting from all these dudes. We've been getting 100. That ain't even a third of the 360. It's the whole circle here. You know what I'm saying? If you saying you my man, I should be able to come to you anytime when I got a problem. when I'm down and out, I should be able to come to you. You should be able to come to me and say, man, boy, I need this. Ain't no screens attached. Ain't no where I got to be throwing back in your face. Boy, you remember when I gave you this? I'm your dude. I don't. When you 360, man, you can wake me up 4 o'clock in the morning. Boy, I got a problem.
Well, you know, you've seen that technology has changed, but have you seen that people overall have changed? I mean, we used to not have all this social media and stuff, so people had to actually come visit you and talk to you. Have you seen the difference in just people, the way people interact with each other?
The respect is lost.
Yeah, that I can definitely think.
Yeah, the respect is lost. Everybody too quick to up. I mean, it ain't nothing to do nothing to nobody. I mean, that's the easy part. The hardest part is the repercussion. You know what I'm saying? Either it come from a family member or it come from the system. Can you? That's the easy part. The easy part is that's nothing. But like I say, it's the repercussion. People they ain't standing up under the repercussion these days. You know.
So what about the music? Did you listen? What did you see change about music from behind?
You know, I had a militant mind. I'm a Public Enemy man.
Yes!
You know?
Look.
I listen to Public
Look
Enemy.
at
So,
this.
yeah, I listen to Public Enemy.
And
so.
guess what? I'm not to cut you off. We're going to get back into some music. But in your book, you said thank you to one of my favorite people, Buckshot.
Yeah, Buckshot.
What? Look, there he is right here. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Like, that music got me through a lot in the 90s.
Yeah, he gave me a shout out back in the days.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow. I've sent him a copy of your thank you to tell him that you thanked him in the book.
I appreciate you.
When he sees it, I'll let you know. I'll give you his information. But yeah, go ahead. What kind of music was influencing you?
Yeah, like I say, I was a Public Enemy man. So I liked that concept, that military movement during that time.
Shout out to Chuck D and DJ Lord and Flavor Flav.
Yeah, I liked that movement.
Yeah, they're making new music now too. So what do you think now what about like the Rick Rosses and the people that kind of assume the identity of people that will really live in that lifestyle? What do you think about that part of the game?
I'll take my hat off to Ross. Of course, he brought back the face of the days, and he got a lot of history. So I know he did his research. And that moved me. It started me to listen. Yeah. And I say, man, this dude got a lot of history. So I take my hat off to Ross Trick, I got to do that.
The Miami music scene is different. When you were down, when you first went down, it was like the bass movement.
Yeah,
right?
it was the Luke, it was
Luke and all of that.
Yeah, don't stop, get it.
Yeah. So now it's different.
Yeah.
And so you still like it because they're paying homage to the old,
the men,
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, So I don't knock that.
Okay, well I guess I better.
What would you say would be some of like the top, I guess, business lessons you learned throughout, because you running a business. People look at it, look glamorous from the outside, but you running a whole operation. You're not only running a business, but you still got to watch your back for all the other bullshit going on. So what were some of the things you feel like you learned that stuck with you to today? You always got to cover your back. Always. You can't never let your back. Once you underestimate the slightest thing, you dead, You never think yourself too bigger than the next man. You got to always give everybody their respect, regardless of, I ain't caught up on titles too big, so, you just got to respect the next man, and move forward, That's my thing, is to respect. I heard they coming out, where they in talks about shooting the Miami Boys movie. How would you like, if anybody whatever director got the chance to film it, how would you like the film to be portrayed, or what would be cool with you if they put out about that?
The truth. Just like in that book, The Truth. Hey, you got to give it to them raw. The truth. I mean, that's what I can. That's what I say. The truth.
So you mentioned that in the book you talk about relationships and polygamy, and so
I'm about to pull my main man in on this one.
I mean, y'all feel free to weigh in, but you come from a 2-parent home, and you kind of say, you know, you were raised to think that that was the way to be with one woman and a man or whatever, but then you changed your mind somehow. Is that what happened?
I look back on where we come from. You know, I understand. Okay, if we was brought over here, our ancestors was brought over here. We up under somebody education, economics, religious. So okay, if I was back home where we came from, then what I'd fall up under? So, I mean, we all know in the African continent that, you know, they follow polygamy in different religions outside of Christianity. So,
or Roman Catholicism.
Okay, if I'm a king, if I'm a king, then I should be, you know, reap the benefits of that. You know, so, you know,
You
I'm
see
a
my
good
face,
thinker,
right?
you know. Yeah.
Here she go.
I know I'm not gonna say anything because I mean,
You don't think I should?
That's what you.
After a hard day of work, you don't think I should come home to a massage?
Absolutely.
So,
But how many hands you need to rub your back?
you know, sometimes you be so, you got to walk up a whole bunch of stairs. Carry a lot of money or gold or whatever the.
I mean, if that's how it is, that's how you are, and whoever agrees to that, that's fine. It's the ones that's, like you said, the pretenders that's pretending to be kings that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what your lifestyle, and you telling me straight up, like, this is what I do, and this is what the lifestyle I live, and if you want to be a part of it, let's go. And if you don't, then good luck. People could deal with that. Because at the end of the day, when you live that lifestyle, you call the shots.
If you're being productive, and you producing like a king supposed to, like I said, you should be treated in that nature. I mean, you got to respect the laws of where you stay. Like I said,
Right.
in the beginning, okay, it's a one woman's man country, so you got to respect that law. But if you in another country where that exists, then you should be treated in that nature, I feel.
So